OJ, dude, I fucking love it.
Yeah, OJ is really good for you, man.
It makes you feel
Vitamin
good.
C.
Like you can just feel it like after I drank some, and it's not the same with like other
Water.
cheap juices that I buy or even water. Yeah. No, well, water is better.
Water's still number one for sure.
Yeah,
I would say that.
Water
Yeah.
is king. And we are back.
Hello, hello, hello. We
How's
want
it
to
going,
thank Tropicana for sponsoring us today on our show, the Pizzaghost.
Dude, there's nothing like OJ and pizza. Match made in heaven. Oh, what do you do there? Were you taking shits?
No, I got some more tea. I got a cutie for my cutie. That's you. And about to crack it open. It's gonna be great.
Bust open that cutie.
About to bust this cutie open.
Is it cutie season?
Aren't
there like certain times of the year where they're like way better than others? Like sometimes you have like a bad cutie, you know, then just like
I just threw away a bad cutie, in fact, to get to this one. And I think in this modern day and age, cutie season is year round because we can ship it whenever we want, wherever it comes from.
We really just don't know how
good we have it.
Are, how blessed we are. Yep. Shit. Well, what do you want to get into, bro?
Do we want to? I don't know. I mean, ideally, someone is listening to this, right? Someone that's not us. So I don't know if we want to maybe talk about what's happening here, what's going on.
What's happening? I mean, after all, dude, this was your idea originally.
It wasn't.
It was.
What?
No,
like, don't pin this on me. Do not pin this on me, dude. No, you got us into this mess. You're gonna get us out.
No. You want to take credit for this immensely successful in the future podcast that will.
Right.
No, because I remember you're like, hey, dude, like my brother has a podcast. And it was like this big revelation.
I didn't say that. I said his friend has a podcast. Okay. His friend has a podcast, and we went on it once to talk about movies. And I was just like, okay, this, we could do this too. Why not? And I feel like every time we have a conversation, it's usually pretty interesting. We talk through some interesting things. We are both musicians. We're both, we're competent people. So I figured, why not? Why not?
A couple of competent professionals.
That's what this podcast is going to be called, the competent professionals.
So tell me, Mason, how did you get into this industry?
This musical industry?
Yeah. Start from the very beginning.
The very beginning.
Because I remember when I was calling myself the Guitar Master.
Guitar Master, MAZTA.
Sam 900. Yeah, that was for short. But you were the real Guitar Master.
I was not the Guitar Master, but
okay.
I remember you and I were in orchestra together in like 7th grade. Do you remember that?
Of course, dude.
I had never seen such a slouched violinist before. It was crazy. Like the violin was like always, no matter what, the violin was just on the brink of falling out of your hand because you were just so bent over you.
No, dude, yeah, my elbow would just be like firmly like rested on my leg, so just be like.
Did you enjoy that class? What was your experience? I don't think I said a word to you really. We never really talked during that time. We weren't really.
No, I feel like you always you felt like you were above the last chair slouched guy with a hoodie and like Monster Energy drink like jacket. Like that's kind of the vibe I got. You thought you were too good for that shit.
I was too good for that.
To associate with a character like that.
Yeah.
No. Well, here's the okay. Yeah. Rewinding back a little bit to. I guess before that, for me, like I did orchestra in elementary school because this was middle school that we're talking about. We were in orchestra together, so we went to separate elementary schools. In my elementary school, it was just I was in 5th grade, and like in 5th grade, like everyone, that's like when you decide like like what instrument do you want to play, because that's when like band and orchestra began for us, right? So you like go through like all those instruments, and I still like to this day, like I don't understand people that just learn, like say like I want to play the trumpet, but then just like focus on something like that. I think like the saxophone's cool, like even clarinet, but like trumpet or trombone, like God, like how can you like like practice that with hours without like wanting to go crazy? And I don't know. Anyway, but I was like, band, like it's kind of lame. Like I wasn't like really, I had my taste hadn't like developed where I really had like a good appreciation for like jazz music or anything. And I was always like more attracted to orchestral music, like some of the very first music that I remember, like very first CDs that like I owned were like John Williams soundtracks, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and just like
Lord
other stuff that he had done. Yeah, Lord of the Rings. Although that's not John Williams, I forgot the name of.
I know. Howard Shore.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So because of that, the violin seemed like just naturally like a more appealing.
You were an Anglophile.
Instrument. Yeah, a little bit. So I took it seriously, like seriously enough, like the first two years, like in 5th and 6th grade. And I was like the only kid besides Eli. Like Eli Redeker, our dear longtime friend Eli Redeker, actually joined. It was like really cool of him. Actually, I'll always remember this. I was the only one, and like for the first few months, like in 5th grade, everyone was in band. No one wanted to be in orchestra at Theodore Roosevelt. So I like gave a recital or a performance, right? And it was just me and the principal, who like actually like also played violin. It was like me up there, dude, in front of like the whole school. I did fine, I think, or whatever. Like but I think like Eli saw that and he was like, I don't want to be. I want Sam to be alone. And he had also been like playing the violin for like years, or in like viola too, I think, before that. So no, it was really
so sweet of him.
Really standard bro. Like it's
just
like
a pitiful
like 10-year-old dude, like reaching out and taking that upon him. So like he didn't like need it, like he was just like reviewing like simple shit to him. Right. But anyway, so that was like kind of a fun thing between like him and I for a couple of years there. But then when I got to middle school, somehow like my priorities changed. I just did not give a shit about orchestra at all. I don't know, like, and I regret this. Not that I didn't give a shit, but that I was in those, like, signed up for those classes, like when not giving a shit. I should have just like not even like been there, but it was. So yeah.
So you don't regret what you could have learned from orchestra. You just regret the whole thing entirely. You just wish
the whole thing. I don't think, and like when I look back, I don't regret like being in choir. I wish I would have actually put more.
I would have loved choir. I wish I would have done that. That was my regret for sure. Because I was scared. I was just scared. I'll admit it. I was a quiet young lad.
Well, no, it was scary for me too. I thought it would have been awesome if you were in it too, because I think in some years too, it was like I didn't really like. They're kind of like grew to become like this sort of like choir like group or clique gang, and I like never really like fit in with them very much. There are, didn't really desire to in the first place. So I mean, it would have been great to have like some like actual more bros cool guys, in there, but
more bros.
But yeah, no, you played. Were you playing viola? Right.
Well, so before
or cello too.
Yeah, I played. Yeah, so before I even moved to Kansas, my first. Well, we all do recorders too. Like I'm sure you did recorder. Yeah.
Oh, I could talk about that. No, that's something like did you get the ribbons too? Like after you like
yes,
up and you got a ribbon?
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
I actually did. I will say I was like really good with
good.
That. I wish I would have kept up that sort of thing, or that's
there's some legit recorders. Yeah. Well, a little sneak peek into what we're going to be talking about eventually in this award-winning series. What is that CNIMP song that has recorders in it?
Probably several.
Shit, it's the oh man, which one is it? Shit, I'm gonna look it up real quick.
Give me some more, like who's singing, what type of vibe, what album?
Tim Smith is singing.
Okay, let's see. Narrow it down to.
Is it what's the really happy one that's like it almost sounds like it's sung from the point of view of like a boy. It's like da 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 da.
Oh, the one that like references "Fixing a Hole" from the Beatles.
Yes, that's the one. Yeah.
Okay, you ready for the title of the song? It's
give me a hint.
Oh no, I just have to say the whole thing. I'm sorry, but 1,000 Strokes and a Rolling Suck.
Okay, yep, I knew it. Yeah.
One of the most amazing song titles ever.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, that one has some great recorders in it. But
yeah.
so my first instrument was actually saxophone. And
Whoa.
yeah, right. I know, right? It's crazy. That was only like probably a couple years, but I was, it was like whatever. I didn't like the whole reed situation, like how there was like this little element you had to like a little add-on, and it had to be changed out and get all wet and shit.
Yeah, dude,
splinter
that always
up.
seemed like a nightmare. I don't know how.
Yeah.
Well, how old were you?
That was probably, I think that was 4th and 5th grade, probably.
So was that for a band?
That was for band, yeah. And I had.
Were you also in orchestra?
No, I wasn't. So when I moved to Kansas is when I got into orchestra. So I guess that was starting in, is that 6th grade or probably 7th grade? Yeah. And I did viola for that first year, and then 8th grade I did cello, and so then I just did cello from then on out. And I got pretty good. I was never. Yeah. I couldn't. Everyone else owned their own cellos. Like it was kind of like, I don't know. Orchestra was weird because I feel like it had kind of an upper middle class vibe to it in Kansas. Like I don't know. Like
that's
everyone owned.
Probably true. Not something I was paying attention to or ever thought about. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, you had like yeah. Anyways, but
yeah.
Yeah. It was. I was always good, but didn't really get the. I wasn't a very like finesse play. Like I wasn't really finely detailed. I
mean, you were no Yi Young You, but
yeah, I was no Yi Young You, that's for sure. But yeah, I really enjoyed cello, and in general, like I really loved orchestra, and I think it gave me like an appreciation for like a lot of classical music, and I always loved film music anyways, and so I think that only like further like reinforced that love of like John Williams and all that stuff. So but yeah, but meanwhile I think we were both into the hard rock, as they say, the heavy metal.
Well, even then I don't think our tastes really converged that much until like the later years of high school, because
you liked Hollywood Undead, to be clear. You liked
I liked Hollywood Undead. I also liked lots of other artists, and you liked some embarrassing artists too.
Who?
So.
Name
Godsmack.
One. That was okay. I didn't like Godsmack in 7th grade though.
And Godsmack isn't even like that embarrassing. Okay,
they're
yeah,
not. They're not. I didn't.
You were
no.
Okay,
no.
All I want to say is, yeah, I know you were okay. I remember being in 7th grade, and you and like Caleb and Finn, you guys were like kind of snobby about your musical taste. I like nowadays, like I really have like no shame about this, and like looking back, like consider like this period like extremely formative to like the music that I make now. But like so winding back like a little bit like further, so I didn't like ever really listen to popular music until like 6th or 7th grade, because my parents were just like really restrictive. I'd never like it, maybe like if I go out like in public and hear some stuff on the radio, but like that was it. But I remember like when I was in 6th grade, like I did like this it was some stupid like fundraising shit that they make you do, like selling like cookies or whatever, but not like, but I don't, but it's like one of those things where and they have like those rewards, like, oh, if you sell like this many, like you get like this prize. And I got like a little tiny like handheld radio.
Oh shit!
And
nice.
I remember it just blew my mind, because
I would frequency to the outside world, kind of, because you were living in a cupboard, right?
Yeah,
you were sleeping in a pantry,
in a prison. Like it was just connection to the whole outside
had your
world.
George Bush paintings on the left and right, and you had your little radio to the outside world.
Yeah, quite literally. And so I would like listen to like Z96.3, Power Hits 97.5, all the hits,
the best.
And like especially like in that period of time, I feel like that stuff really, it's in my musical DNA, dude. Like everything, like Black Eyed Peas, Justin Timberlake, and there's some good stuff from like
for sure.
Even I hate to say like Kanye West, and Natasha.
We don't mention that.
Crazy by Gnarls Barkley. There's some good, cool songs from the era. Anyway, so that was really big for me. And then I think it was hard for me to go from that to like listening to like the stuff that you guys were listening to, like Metallica and Slayer. Like to my ears, it's like, like this is so jarring. Like, and I thought like they were better because like it's like technically better, it's more advanced. And but I thought like that's what made it good, and like I don't know, or maybe like you guys had like a more,
which is what we did too.
You guys were acting like you had a better taste, so like questioning myself, like do I?
Oh, dude, so, I'm so sorry.
Like little fucking like 12-year-old me. It was.
We were so
borderline bullying.
I've actually been. Well, no, not bullying. Yeah,
actually. Not what we're talking about, but there were some other things. But anyway, okay.
Oh no.
No.
You can't address that. Okay.
I'm not even talking about.
Okay. Cool.
No, I'm just like no. Okay, well, we will address it now. That I'm just saying I can't address it. I'm talking about like you guys did have like this like, it's
we had a superiority
attitude.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Like you guys listen to shit like we don't listen. And like I don't know. Like I guess I mean even like right. I still. I don't really have that. We don't really have that today. We have like a more like mature view on it. But like I think that everyone thinks that like their taste is better than other people's because it's their own taste. But I don't know. So that's why going from I wanted to get into more of that just classical metal stuff that you guys were listening to, but it was I kind of like go through like bands like Linkin Park and Disturbed as like stepping stones.
It's still like kind of pop.
Radio, and along the way like I discovered like some stuff that I still think are like really good bands that are like still influential to me, like System of a Down, Pinkly Smooth, like the side project of the Rev, Jimmy Sullivan, and God, it was really good, very influenced by Bungle, and forever
rip to the Rev, dude.
No, honestly I think that guy was like an amazing, like if you listen to like A Little Piece of Heaven, like the live version, it's like their own like Ever So Closely Guarded line. Like seriously, it's really really good, honestly, even though it's like the feel was like cheesy. Musically it's really great, and I think he was like a real good songwriter.
He was the goat.
The goat, the Rev. But anyway, back to
we'll have a future conversation where we can play that one, because I've actually never heard that one. We'll have a whole episode dedicated to
I did show you, and you like talk shit on the vocals.
No.
It was
what
a while
year was
ago.
this? Was this like 8th grade?
No, I think it might have been like more like 12th grade.
We get a pass. Okay, we both get a pass for everything.
Year 18, cardiacs and other discoveries that we made along the way. So anyway, we'll have to circle back to that.
Well, okay. So real quick, just to clear the air. I've been talking. I've actually been talking to like my roommates about this, about how I like just coming to terms with that superiority complex that we had, and I don't know where it came from. I think it's like parents are one part of it. When you have like ties to like musical families, and like they have very strong opinions, then it gets passed on. You start to like,
that's very interesting angle. Like I mean, talk about that for a second. Like your parents, I mean, not everyone like has that sort of situation where your parents are like musical gurus, DJs, DJs.
They're both DJs, and they both still are like active in the music industry in some capacity. But
I remember, dude, like going over to like your house, like for the first time. I remember like your mom's like there was like a room of
a wall of
records. CD records.
Yeah.
Like, I had never seen like anybody
yeah
have like that many records. Like my family like listens to like music and stuff, and like my dad is actually like a really good like piano player, but like,
right,
it was not on that level of just like being like obsessing over like collecting records.
Definitely audiophiles, and it was all metal, classic rock, like some country. Like I think my mom was like far more varied. They both are, but yeah, those were the glory days, because like pre like streaming, like I just had access to all the music to like, you know, just like rip onto my MP3 player or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I was super, like, as you remember, like Megadeth, Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, like all the thrash metal, but also like classic rock.
Four, right?
They had to have the big four. And then if you can add in Testament and Exodus if you want the extra two. But yeah, so but I've been coming to terms with that about like, I think it wasn't until like college after we graduated high school and going to college when like started like really chill out and like have like an open mind, like even like as simple as like the Beatles, just like like realizing how fucking awesome, like how much they rock. and just getting more into pop music and quieter things. And yeah, I don't know.
So when do you think that happened for you? Like when you got into,
I would say just when we
things?
like graduating high school, even just like the summer after high school, like was when, just so the door, the door was swung wide open.
The doors of perception.
Totally, bro.
No, for real. Which that would have been a good segue into that moment, but I still feel like we have to mention like Opeth, because I feel like
that's it, man. That's the one.
That was the band that really brought us together musically. And
yeah,
going back, so like I remember in the early days of high school, the rock music the bands I really liked were System of a Down and Avenged Sevenfold. So like
A7X.
Going back, like what?
A7X. Sorry.
A7X.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about like those bands compared to, and I will still like maintain this, like even Avenged Sevenfold, which I don't listen to like very much anymore, and they're pretty cheesy, but I think what I really liked about them is like each song was a very distinct like style. It's like its own musical journey, especially like their self-titled album. So yeah, and from that so this is like actually like kind of crucial, because from Avenged Sevenfold I discovered like this Pinkly Smooth band, like the side project, which was very influenced by Mr. Bungle. So through that I also discovered like Mr. Bungle and just like these other sorts of more avant-garde metal bands. I don't know if we've ever talked, or have you ever heard of the band like Arcturus? Or
yes, yeah.
I expect I might have showed you.
You probably have showed me. I don't.
Maybe we should listen.
Maybe we should give it a listen.
It's pretty cool. It's like avant-garde. Like I was into kind of just like a subgenre, not exclusively, but and like it kind of like coincided with like my interest in like prog metal, like with Opeth. Like I was like very interested in like avant-garde metal. So like Arcturus is, I don't listen to them very much these days, so I don't really remember all their from much of their biographical details, but I do remember that they're from Scandinavia. They originally were doing like very like just straight black metal stuff, and then they just kind of like branched out into just straight avant-garde metal. I mean, they would call it metal, but it's very kind of just had like this circus or gypsy sort of vibe to it. Here, I'm pulling it up right now. There's one song in particular. I mean, there's lots of them. They're actually pretty decent.
Yeah, Arcturus. I'm trying to. I've definitely heard that before.
All right, share screen.
Now, are we still doing? Let's see. Okay, well, yeah, it's not a DAW, so we can just listen straight from YouTube or from Spotify if we need to.
Yeah. I'm on YouTube right now. There's just interesting. Yeah, this performance.
Ooh, interesting.
It's from 15 years ago. I think the quality is probably like pretty crap, 240p or whatever. But we'll go ahead.
All right. Are you sharing your audio?
You can't hear anything.
I can't hear it yet.
No, you should have heard it. I think I forgot to share my audio. Let's try again. Yeah, I hit that.
Get the hang of this.
Yeah. There we go.
Looking like fools, bro. Arcturus.
Yeah, no idea how to pronounce it. It's like a star or a star system.
Okay, I hear it. Oh yeah, Scandinavian. For sure.
Vi fortsätter väl om inte så allt för länge.
All right, I'm intrigued.
All right, I'm gonna skip a little. Oop. There we go.
It's buff. All right, got a little like sideshow going on.
Yeah, I like the performers.
Yeah. There's some like background vocal, like synths or orchestral.
candles all blown out at once. There, table windows found its ghastly symphony of malice, hatred, conspiracy.
Oh boy, there's more coming out.
And in the galactic sea of sorrow, fallen oblivion with the
All right.
Was that him or was that him?
No, it's like he was coughing up phlegm or something.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
No, even just like listening back to that, I still really like that.
Yeah, it's I can definitely see why you like it. It's got like the theatrics. It's just something, they're doing something else, or it's more immersive, more of like a experiential music. But I definitely want to hear what your thoughts are on that and why you were drawn to that.
Yeah, I mean, I got the sense, and I think like the same thing with like Pinkly Smooth, that just like the mentality of them like just going into like songwriting just felt like a lot more freeing, or like they're in this for exploration. They're not in this they're not trying to play music in a style because like they like a particular style. They're trying to just explore, I don't know,
Right.
what music is, what music can be.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna try to pull up another song. I'm trying to like remember. It's been a while. Because they also, one thing I really like about this band too, like the pianos and keys, electronics, like they were doing like all this stuff. Like I feel like it became like maybe like more popular like in the 2010s, like onward for like metal bands to like incorporate like electronic stuff and keys and synths.
Yeah, like were you a Dream Theater fan ever? I know Albert definitely was. Were you? Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was.
Oh, damn.
But not
sorry,
because
I have to end the call, dude. I'm sorry. I gotta go.
And I guess, dude, I don't know. I think like being a Dream Theater fan is just as respectable as being a Slayer fan in some ways.
No, I'm not. I'm definitely not. No, I was kidding. I'm not hating on him by any means.
Yeah.
And I say that as a person who doesn't know enough Dream Theater to really have an opinion. Yeah, I guess that's why I was drawn to Opeth, because it was less about the, like, they're super technical, but they didn't really, that wasn't really the point. Like they weren't there to like show off. You could just tell that they were just like really big music fans. Not to say like John Petrucci and like Dream Theater.
They just don't like music, dude. There's
they fucking
like
hate music. They just like,
masturbation.
yeah, they like academics. But I guess it was just, I don't know. I was like, same with like Yngwie Malmsteen and like the like virtuoso guitarist. Like I was into it for a little while because I was like thinking I could probably like learn something from them. But yeah, I think that the technical stuff that I was into when I was a little snobby kid was kind of besides the point. It always felt like there was some sort of like, there was still like always an emotional like response I was getting from like all the music I was into.
Oh yeah, I mean, even like when I listened to Dream Theater, the point wasn't just like the technical stuff did give me emotions. It's kind of like, but it just kind of like ran dry pretty quickly. It's kind of just like you know, like when you're chewing a piece of gum, and like for the first like minute or so, it's just this amazing explosion of flavor. Then after it's just like, all right, get the point. And it's like, I think kind of like just on a larger scale, when I was like young and like learning how to play guitar too, like the sound of like someone that's like really good guitar and like just fucking shredding, that excited me and like gave me an emotional response. Whereas like these, I've heard it so often, like it just kind of like loses its flair, and it like still can be cool like when it's like inserted like in a within like a context. Same thing with like heavy stuff, but yeah. So with Dream Theater, I do remember like, and some of like the best the stuff that I liked the most was like just the most like crazy technical stuff, because also it's like too like I had like no idea that like that sort of technically complicated music was even possible or it could even
Right.
exist. Like you don't hear like Dream Theater on the radio on K-Rock. Your Mom Rock wasn't playing Dream Theater, so it's like,
hey,
oh,
keep
shit.
Mom Rock out of this, dude. Mom Rock's out of
and for good reason. But she was, I didn't. So it was like it was a new sound to me, and that's like I think what I liked most about Dream Theater above all else. But I still like at the end of the day, I still was like more interested. I think emotionally, like my heart was more drawn towards bands like Arcturus, Opeth, and Pinkly Smooth. Real quick, I'm going to try to see if I can share like another sample of Arcturus.
Do it.
Cleaner audio, straight from their album. Screen. All right, I listened to this album a lot.
Okay, all right, here we go.
This negative kingdom may horrible and white. The angels also pass in their years, hoping to be saved from oblivion by oblivion.
Hoping to be saved from oblivion by oblivion. Check out this part, dude.
Little interlude here. Oh. Okay. Oh shit. Like that bell
it's
sound.
kind of like cycles back. Oh yeah, like it's
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but I think like now that I'm older, like listening to the back, I have more of an appreciation for like all the sound effects and the textures. But see, like the very very adventurous music, and like from someone that has like the extent of like their musical, especially within like rock, it's just been like what's on the radio basically, and what has been popular in the past on the radio. That was very very new and exciting for me. So bands like this were big.
That's
big for me.
That's great, and it definitely like sets a and I think that was something that I was always drawn to too, was when like within a song it like the song kind of like stops and kind of takes you on a new little, I don't know, like a new little journey within. And I like that bass, like the do 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 do. It's got like that's what I always love that stuff too. Like even going back to like Pink Floyd, like I was such a, I don't know, it just has that kind of like futuristic sound to it. So I was always a sucker for that. But yeah, that's cool.
Back what you were, I was excited to get into this Opeth conversation.
Oh boy, Opeth.
Opeth.
Yeah, so Blackwater Park was my entryway into that band. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, did you mention like maybe he didn't actually use this word, but you said that when your stepdad was describing it to you, he said it was kind of like a prog band like Pink Floyd. I'm wondering, like, did you have like a very good conception of prog at that point, like what it was?
I had an okay conception. I mean, I always thought of like, yeah, Pink Floyd was always like my go-to as far as like thinking about prog. I'm trying to think of what other bands I would have even known by then. Like I knew of like King Crimson.
Okay.
Yeah, I think probably
I also didn't know about like King Crimson and like Yes, and like the triple like 70s prog bands until after getting into Opeth.
Yeah, I mean Rush. Oh, that's it. Yeah, Pink Floyd and Rush. Like I was never huge on Rush. I really liked 2112 when I was a kid, but yeah, Pink Floyd I was already a pretty huge fan. I remember like I would go to bed like listening to Dark Side of the Moon, and like when Time came on, I'd be like jolted awake because it was like all the clocks and stuff. But so he kind of sold it that way. And it definitely worked on me. I think one of the things that's just so great about them, in addition to like I said, the vocals, they're technically amazing, but they don't really flaunt it, in my opinion. Like they always like wanted to serve the song, you know. They had this sort of like fantasy element going on, but the big thing was like there was always some sort of like, I don't know, they were like developing into some like cathartic release or something. Like all of my favorite Opeth songs have like an incredible like outro or midsection where it's just like, God, it just like peaks in like just the right way, and it's like everything you wanted to was like leading to that moment. And we could talk more about this, but I just remember like we saw Opeth in, what was it, like Iowa or no, Nebraska. Nebraska. Yeah. And I just remember, I think Albert was there too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and Dustin, Albert. Yeah, it was us four, right?
I'm not sure if Dustin was there. Maybe he was. I know Dustin Amy was there. Okay, I believe you.
God, yeah. Amy. Yeah, I forgot. Wow, that's crazy.
Oh yeah.
But I still remember like I think it was like Deliverance probably came on, and there's that ending of Deliverance where it's like it's nothing but just it just really hits you because it's just like bum, 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 bum. Yeah, it's so good. Like, cause
and they had it like so tight, you know, it's so loud and so powerful, and it's like, you know, they don't do that until the very, very end.
Exactly.
And very, very good at like you said, like saving those moments for like the right moment, like or like if the double bass, like it's only in like certain moments, or I'm just also like immediately when you said that I had this like section of like Ghost of Perdition like stuck in my head where you know, that's maybe like 30 seconds, but it's
yeah. And then he goes
it's really well done. I mean, and sometimes like I don't think a band like Opeth, I think it's especially like the harder, like the longer the song goes, like the transitions themselves, like they're not all the time like as smooth as like a band like, I don't know, like King Crimson or Cardiacs or like or just a normal like band. But I think like it's okay to like kind of, I don't know, have more of those rough around the edge transitions. What's more important is like that the whole song, I don't know, like it like everything comes in at the right moments. Like you don't like lean into like one thing too much at one particular moment. And no, the big intense like energetic moments like from Opeth were always incredible, especially live. I mean, some of those songs are just like, you know, it's like
kick ass.
That music that's just like made to hear live.
Absolutely.
Especially. I mean, oh shit, I mean, like the stuff like Watershed, like underrated album, I
fucking
think
kicks ass, man.
Bro,
was
it
Lotus?
Did they play the Lotus Eater, or was the very first track off of that album they played? It was like one of the ones that were like, I think it was the first track. I remember it like being like really, really heavy. So like listening to it like on headphones, like I still like was kind of like a sucker for like the soft vocals, and like
me too.
I wasn't like something that's like heavy, like with heavy vocals throughout like the whole song. Like it's a little bit hard for me to still, you know, kind of just, it's tiring. It's a little boring. But
for sure.
So for that, but what was the song? Hold on, Watershed.
Well, Heir Apparent is.
Yeah, I think that might be it. I think that might be what I'm thinking.
Totally, dude. Yeah.
Because that like there wasn't very many like soft or quiet like moments in that song, like very many melodic moments, but like so like it wasn't like one of my favorites on the album while listening to like the studio version. But I remember like hearing it live. It was like one of the first songs they played or whatever, and it was just like so powerful. Like it's just totally like, justified. Like it you know, being so heavy throughout the whole song because like the riffs were just so fucking sick.
Amazing. Super sick, super creative. Like they're definitely a unique band. Like you can get like lost in like just like an ocean of so many like death metal bands. Even within like the, I don't know, like the Scandinavian metal, like they totally stand out. And I think it's because he just had such a diverse, like an eclectic taste, like going like far beyond metal. And even like, you know, like jazz fusion, like kind of shreddy guitar stuff. Like he's totally into that. Like he's totally such a nerd with music. So that definitely shows. A record collector. Yeah, exactly. So Opeth definitely formative for both of us. And we haven't even mentioned like the most important component of our musical convergence, which is that we were in a band together. Huge tours. We did so many tours, dude. Japan, European, Southeast Asia, Lawrence, Kansas, the Bottleneck. Oh man. The Manhattan, what was that theater called that we played, where they usually had like weddings and stuff?
It's where Vince lives right now. Why?
Right above.
My brain is extremely foggy.
The Mac? No, the Mac was the Improv. What was that place called? Some points.
Dude, I mean, it's like actually like really silly that I'm not remembering this because
that was a good show too, in my opinion. The Wareham.
The Wareham, yes.
The Wareham. That was big for us too, because that was a
dude, I wasn't there. I wasn't even like in the audience. That was
Forrest
with you guys. That was his last show with you guys.
This is so awkward for you.
No, I mean, it's cool. I remember our first show, the house show at the House of Hayes. That was my first show playing with you guys.
I remember. There's like a picture of us holding you, right? Or is it holding me? Or Kyler? It's probably Kyler.
Yeah.
Remember, he's like sprawled out, like, and we're all holding him. There's like the white sheet behind us, wasn't there?
Yeah. Classic.
Oh man,
classic. There's lots of good photos. Like, you know, there's the classic photo of like Caleb on the ground, just like you know, for all 20 of our friends in our friend's basement.
Well, and there was the at the fucking, what's it called, the park, City Park. Is that what it's called? Seco Park, City Park. There was that auditorium or the amphitheater we played at, where if you see pictures of the audience, it looks measly as hell. But seeing the pictures of us like up on stage, like Kyler was like, he was splattered with blood. Like there was like zombie makeup and shit. We looked so badass. But then you'd see zoomed out photos, and there'd be like two kids like in the whole like the general crowd. Yeah, it was kind of.
Yeah, if you have like no idea like what the audience size was, and we're just like looking at the pictures of us on stage, it looks like we're playing like just, you know, like maybe at a festival or something, because it's like an outdoor, like a really big stage. Like I said, Tyler's blood. Oh yeah, great. But then I think that was like one of the photos where it was like Photoshop dust in every single like seat. Hundreds and hundreds of dustings.
So many empty benches. Well, that band was called White, by the way, which
and you know, it was a diverse well, the thing is, we are white. I remember like that was Tyler, we are white, but you know, we could do that, or you guys could do that, because I mean, Forrest was Middle Eastern, and
it's true.
I mean,
it's true.
You're not exactly the whitest guy yourself, mister.
I'm ambiguous, so
well, it's good. It's good. Like at the time, it felt like a good neutral name. Like it's kind of like, you know,
it wasn't my choice. I replaced Blake.
Neither of us formed that.
It's true.
We're there from the beginning. We just later.
We had Forrest, who's a good friend. He's a great guy. He was just such a flaky, I don't know, like he wanted to be in the band, but he also didn't. And we had some great shows and had a really good time with Forrest, and still love him. But we needed someone more dedicated to the craft of being in a band in 11th grade. And so we had a tryout, and it came down to you and Vincent, who also were the only people that applied. And and we chose you, and we never looked back. It was kind of fate, if you think about it.
Yeah. Oh, and it's also like just really hilarious to think about like how Vince and I in that moment we were like, rivals, or or just in that moment really, because like even like outside of that, like leading up to it, like I don't think we ever like we didn't really like talk to each other, like we never like talk shit on each other, but
right.
And then like we, just as fate would have it that 2 or 3 years later, I would discover like how good of a songwriter Vincent is, and we would create this Hectic Temps project together, which of course like now we like constantly like doing music stuff with him more than like anyone else in that band. I mean so yeah, definitely interesting. And I remember like too, back to like our like learning instruments, rewinding a little bit, I remember like the reason that I was even so good at bass in the first place. I'm like, it's embarrassing to say this. I'm not embarrassed. I think it's funny because it's so long ago, high school with little pea brain. But I wasn't like you, where like I was like really into it, because you said, I mean, there was a certain point where you were practicing like 5 hours a day.
Lot. Yeah, I played a lot. God bless my parents for like putting up with that.
And still, I mean, that's crazy. I mean, I think it's like insane to me, because like you're at your school 8 hours a day, and that's like kind of like work that like drains you out as a kid. Like most kids just want to like go home and like play video games or whatever, and you just like that's like another like 5 hours of work. That's like,
but that's the thing is because it wasn't work at all. It was not work. It was I was like, it was a high. It really was like woo, like getting it was a lot of fun, because I was lucky enough to have like a big amp that I had inherited and some guitars from my uncle. So I had like a half stack, which was ridiculous, like so unnecessary. But I would just, it was like basically like as tall as I was. And I just had like a big like speaker system, and I would just like play like Black Sabbath and Megadeth and Metallica, just like blast those, and then blast my half stack, and then just like learn all of those songs and learn how to solo and stuff. So it was like that and longboarding. That's all I did really. Yeah. So it was never felt like practice basically.
So, the thing is, for me, I remember this specific conversation, because you, before White, you were in another band called
Black Tuna.
No. We'll talk more viewers the Black Tuna shenanigans, but you were in another band called Ouija. That was like the first. That was like a real band. And you guys had like, did you guys have like ever write like original material, or was always just,
let me actually, it's my turn to show you.
Okay,
let's see. I've been this it's been resurfacing.
Oh shit, some of the old Ouija demos.
No. But this was like the first like real song that I wrote, called Our Own Enemy. And it was like very vague, like I don't want to say like conspiracy theories, but I was into Megadeth, and Dave Mustaine was super into
something about the killing of JFK, right?
This one?
I thought I remember I thought you wrote a song about JFK. Like I remember
Did I really?
Specifically you mentioning JFK.
Oh my God, I wish I would have like had the lyrics to that. This wasn't about this was about like, I don't know, like climate change and like the Israeli-Palestine conflict. But it was like it was
pretty woke of you.
No, but it was written. It was written with the like the very top surface level. Like I didn't know what was going on with any of this, but it was basically just saying how our own worst enemy is ourselves, like as the globe. So
that's deep.
And this this was like this was the MHS Battle of the Bands in 9th grade. So this was when we had to
I was in the Bleachers.
So I think Eric Kleiner, I can't remember what his band was called, but I think Azad was in that band as well. Or maybe Azad played in his own band. I can't remember. And I don't think Fuma was around during this time. But this was back in the days when we had to commute to the West Campus. We went to school at the East Campus. We had to go to the West Campus. 9th grade center. 9th grade center. Okay, all right, here we go. Let me know if you can hear this. There's Caleb and Zach. I'm wearing my Megadeth shirt. Wearing my cargo pants, my cargo shorts.
Dude, I thought like always, a big part of like your guys' like image or the impressiveness of it was the fact that like your face is covered in hair. Like I just asked like some audience like how do they like fucking like see like the notes that they're playing?
We couldn't. We
fucking
could not.
magic. Virtuoso musicians doing their thing. Zach stands up.
I know. That was
amazing.
Yeah, Zach is an amazing drummer. That was planned too. We're like, okay, actually, like there has to be like a pause where you go, yeah. So I'll fast forward. I think this is where I come in. And so yeah, I'm over it. I'm not embarrassed anymore, but I was so into like really forcing those like growling like vocals. Like this is definitely like, I don't know, above my punching weight, so to speak. Yeah, I can't see shit.
Sounds cool, man.
It sounded cool for 9th grade, you know? All the fucking strings that are uncut on my headstock. Yeah, this doom world is digging its own grave. And the chorus is like, not the, oh shit, what is it? Like, not the parasites, not the Israelites.
Sounds a little careful with that one.
No, I know. It wasn't that. It was as in like, people blame the problems of the world for like specific groups or like, you know, so it was like like
it's
why
all just us. We are
it's
our
all
own
just
enemy.
we are our own enemy. But I do want to go to the midsection is where we had some fun because this is where we got to like do our little guitar solos and stuff.
Yeah, that's what I really want to see.
That's what that's what we're all here for. Sorry, 1 second here. Let's go ahead.
All good.
Not the satellites, dude. All right, come on.
You just gotta make the second half of the song all guitars.
I know, yeah.
Ooh, this.
Except for Caleb's little bass solo.
Yeah.
It was a good. That's another thing. I feel like we were blessed to have like some sort of community where we can play venues, you know, at all for all these bands.
As high schoolers, especially.
As high schoolers, that's crazy.
Damn, you're so casual, dude.
I know, right? Anyways.
No, dude. I mean, it's great that you showed that because I think like that's a perfect segue to like what the reason like I mentioned bringing up like Ouija in the first place. I think like Caleb at one point, like Caleb, the bassist, didn't want to play bass anymore. He wanted to play guitar, and so you guys need a bass player. But I don't think you guys were even wanting to do like Ouija. It's kind of like a contentious like if I think Caleb there's sort of like this ultimatum where like either like because he started White and then he was like I only want to play in a band if I'm playing guitar, so we're not going to do like Ouija because I'm playing bass. And like I remember talking to you and Zach about it at lunch how you guys needed a bass player, and I remember thinking like I play a little bass but I'm not good enough. I remember
you were still doing guitar. That was you were still
I
focusing on guitar
wasn't
mainly.
good. I wasn't good. Yeah, but I wasn't good at guitar either. But so I remember like but you knew that I played a little bit. But I think at that time you probably still thought I was shit. I mean, based off of like orchestra.
I think
like,
you were shit.
And or
I mean, we just didn't really. I don't
think
think we really interacted like all that much.
No, we did, because we were friends. I mean, by like 10th grade, like we were definitely like we were sitting at like the same lunch table with the dean, remember, like
the same
got
assigned lunch
your
tables.
rolls and your
we got
rolls and
my rolls, my barbecue sauce.
Yeah, no, we were
Yeah,
friends, but I don't know if like you had ever heard me play guitar or too much or whatever, but like you weren't like, I wasn't a good guitarist. I wasn't very competent, and
I think you
like
were.
no, but back then, like, this is the story of me getting to that point. So like,
Okay.
I really wasn't. I was terrible. Like I wasn't like, it was very surface level stuff that I was good at. But I remember like I was like, hey, like, so maybe I'm not like ready now, but like if I practice, like what do you think about like me? And you guys like the idea, because like we were friends. Like I was friends with Zach, and I was friends with you, and I was like a friend that would be in the band, like playing bass. And like you guys expressed openness to it wasn't even like a promise. It was just like a possibility. I remember you saying like,
okay.
And you're like, well, if you practice, dude, just practice.
What a fucking loser. That sucks.
But you're right. No, you're right. And like, and I mean, because of that, that's when I like really started like being disciplined about practicing.
Yeah.
And I knew like,
because you had a goal in mind now. You're like, oh, I gotta get in this band.
Yeah, and I knew, like, I heard like you practice like 5 hours a day, and I thought like that was just like incredible, like superhuman, like shit, like the amount of discipline you must have. Like I understand, like now it was like all just like play, like it was all just fun.
It was just fun, yeah.
But for me, it's always so yeah. So I remember like, instead of, because before that I would practice guitar for like maybe like 15 or 20 minutes, maybe like 30 or 40 minutes, and I'm really pushing it.
Yeah, if you really get into it.
But that'd be it. But then like I was like, okay, I need to shift my mentality. Like I have, like I talked to Caleb about this too. Like I remember like hearing like Caleb like would practice like for 4 hours a day, whatever, to like when he was like first learning bass to like play with you guys. So it's like, I just have to do that. And that's when I got in the habit of practicing for like 2 hours a day, every day. And I think that was like for maybe like 6 months. And it just so happened that Forrest was leaving White, or was leaving White on some volition after that, and there was that position open, and I had just got to the point where I think I was like starting to get like pretty good at bass. I had discovered some more prog stuff from listening to Opeth. I discovered Gentle Giant. So I remember there was this Gentle Giant song, something like Cogs. What's it? Cogs will be Cogs.
Cogs will be Cogs. Isn't like Cards and Cogs, or
it's from Proclamation.
It's on the Proclamation, yeah. Cogs and Cogs, or that was the, you know, and I still never really got into Gentle Giant, but
Cogs and Cogs.
Cogs and Cogs, yeah. The Cogs will be Cogs.
It's actually a great song, but anyway, like,
it's a great song. It sounds like Cogs, you know, the weird polyrhythms, and it's it's great.
Yeah, it's cool. But that was like an example of like a song that I learned on bass. That was like, stuff like that like really helped me.
Which I never knew. I didn't know you learned that. I don't think I listened to that until like after high school. So that's cool.
Yeah, like post cardiacs. Yeah. So I was decent enough, and and at that time, I think Vince had only been playing bass for like a few weeks. So like, of course, like I was better, and I had been practicing like metal stuff like with Opeth songs. So like I could play faster and you know more proficiently.
You used a pick, didn't you, or did you not?
I did use a pick, but I also used fingers. I was capable of doing both. I don't know, maybe at the time of audition, maybe I wasn't. I just did pick, but I remember I definitely played with both. But yeah.
Wow, the rest is history. But we had some really good times.
Like I just make this distinction, like, you know, before, like everything like musically is just like after like high school and before high school is just completely separate. For me at least, I think like we kind of like had like lots of overlap too, where we discovered like we kind of like branched out of like metal into like more just diverse and experimental like artists that we listened to after that. But I think there was like some like seeds of that like leading up, like listening to lots of Opeth and some of the more like progressive metal bands, I guess. But yeah, I think at that point, like when I remember like thinking of like songwriting and what I wanted to like make musically, it was definitely, I mean, pretty much like a lot like Opeth. Like I was kind of like went back and forth between like heavier like riff based stuff. Then I started, you know, learning more like acoustic passages and finger picking chords, like the minor sounding, the kind of like very folky, like foresty
Fortesty is, yeah, for sure.
I really love that too, because I think like some of the first like music that I listened to from my parents, my mom for whatever reason like really likes like Celtic music or like that sort of thing. So I always had like a natural inclination for more like minor sounding music, or that like the sort of like dark, like forestry sounding stuff. And which is why it was so like interesting, like later on, like when I discovered Cardiac, because it wasn't like that. Like everything, I feel like everything before, even if it was like Pinkly Smooth or Avenged Sevenfold or System of a Down, I like the minor sounding stuff the best, like Question Aerials by System of a Down and stuff. That was always, I always felt home. I felt like that was more like I had this like pre-defined taste where I really like that minor, dark, kind of like sad, but like for me, that's just a cathartic sound.
Sure.
And then that, you know, that changed afterwards, like after like discovering like Cardiacs, and like and just like being like, oh shit, like this music is like, I don't like it because it sounds like my predefined taste in music. I like it because it's like making me like it because it's so good. So
that's anyway, a great way to put it.
But before that, I think and I think we also had this moment where White turned into like something different for like a few weeks or a couple of months after, at the very end, and we delved into some more proggy stuff, and you had like a lot of cool stuff, and I wish we had like some recordings of that.
Dude, I know. Yeah, there was one song in particular, I can't remember what it was called, but I mean, even Leviathan had some of that too. That was like an 8-minute long song or something.
Oh, it was like 6.5 or something.
It was like 6.5. But yeah, it's so sad. I'm sure there's so many cool. It would just be fun to like revisit that stuff.
It'd be interesting. You know?
It'd just be interesting, yeah, because I'm sure we could see some of the seeds planting to where we're heading. But
and this is gonna sound like not to dick ride you, bro, or anything, but like I remember like during that period of time, like listening like those songs, I would remember just thinking like, man, I feel like very like fortunate to like be in a band like with you, like I was like, and like making that sort of music. I'm very like, those songs are like very exciting and new to me, new sounding, and I could tell like you were bringing in just lots of, I mean, the Opeth stuff mainly, but just not as in like copying Opeth with that sort of like mentality of like, we're gonna like explore
kinda
more
ambitious here. I just wanted to like definitely just explore more, and likewise obviously I was very fortunate.
Bass.
No,
I think like bass is cool, and like I mean like bass is like one, like
bass rocks,
underrated. But let's be real here. But for metal in particular, bass does tend to like just follow what the guitar plays a lot. So I don't know if there was like anything really like impressive about what I was doing at that period of time. Just I was just able to keep up. You know, that's all I needed to do.
Well, you kept up very well, my friend. And I think it's the metal genre's fault for not exploring the bass more. You know, like it sucks that it seems like that is always what it's kind of defaulted to, is just like following what the guitar does. But
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, there's not as much room for it, and it was good for me for like practicing stuff. I just be focused more on like technical stuff starting out. I wouldn't have really much in the way of like songwriting anyway, or composition. I mean, maybe I would have done some stuff, but you guys, I mean, you and Caleb were so much cooler than I was in high school. I just like totally disassociate. It's just like I just don't relate to like anything. There's no like reference for it for me. Like just thinking back, I mean, lots of people feel that way, but I just feel like you guys have like less to be embarrassed about, or maybe more to be proud of, I guess.
I don't know,
because you were like just the fact that you were good. I mean, you were virtuoso musicians, like high school prodigies, like for that period of time. No, and it's true. Like you were up there with like, I mean, everyone knew that like
Hendrix,
like, Yinny, Young You for like the orchestra stuff, and like they like during the talent shows, like it'd be like, holy shit, like these girls fucking shred. Like they're fucking serious. Like they are some seriously like talented, like some serious like skill. Like their abilities are just like next level compared to like what you would expect from like a the 7th grade, 8th grade talent show. And like, and the same token, like you guys were doing the same thing with metal. Like it was just as impressive, like from just a bystander perspective. So
it's cool.
It's a nice job.
Thanks. I don't know how to respond. I was really into like I did get into like what do you call it? Like gypsy jazz, like Django Reinhardt, like the.
I don't know any of that.
Really? Oh, you've heard it before. Like the French sounding like. I think you remember me and Andre played at a talent show. Talent show or we played a song called Bistro Fata, which was kind of, it's like very technical in a different way, but it had, it's kind of cultural and it kind of makes you feel.
Then you play like a more like Latin based like acoustic guitar.
I played a nylon. Well, I don't know. I played a nylon string for that one. We recorded that at Chris. God, he was a nice.
Still have that recording? Yeah, the guy named Chris, that was really nice.
Chris Davis. Yeah, me and him recorded. We recorded that one, and we recorded an original too. I wish. Oh man,
because that was on like that was like on a compilation, like Manhattan High School like compilation. I think Noah was also on that with the song like "What Do the Bees Mean" or "What Do the Bees Say" or something like that.
Wow.
I remember that. I that the piece was jazzy, but I said Latin because I thought there was like some more like some Spanish elements to it, but maybe I'm remembering it wrong.
Well, I definitely was into that stuff too.
I remember you being like good at that too.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, you were just so good at everything.
This is what this podcast is, dude. Just wetting my whistle, so to speak. Just wetting the whistle.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I mean, it's just interesting. Like we all have our own journeys, musical journeys, and like periods of time where we grow more or things happen more quickly. And just throughout this like whole period of time, like what we've been talking about, I just feel like the passion that I've had for like creating music and like I guess seriousness about it, like that I've had for the past like 9 or 10 years, ever since graduating high school, like it just like wasn't there. Like it was just like non-existent. Like my just totally different mentality. So yeah.
Mine's always been there, but what I miss now is playing live. Like that's what's gone away. Like I got super into like producing, but like that, there's something totally different about that. Like a whole different energy and like just I don't know, the spirit comes into you and you're just like
I miss it too. I didn't have as many. I still had some. I wish I would have like taken advantage of it more during those moments that I did have with like playing with Noah and everything back in Lawrence.
I hope Vincent and you and Albert can
me too
do something more.
That's the plan. I mean, it's a shitty point to be at the stage where it feels like I'm boy cried wolfing myself in my own dome about like playing live, but I do think that I'm just serious about playing live as soon as the stars align and I'm in the right place. I'm not trapped anywhere for circumstantial reasons. And it's just to like back, just one more quick thing about like those days, like the high school days. I did really, there's always something special for me about like writing my own stuff and like creating my own melodies. But I think the drive to get like technically good or maybe to understand more about music wasn't there. But I do remember even before learning how to play the guitar on the piano, because I did piano lessons for like 3 years or so, like starting from when I was like 8 years old at second grade. And like my sister, like Autumn, being a few years younger to me, she was like 4 or 5, like when she started, or maybe like younger than that. And she kept on going and I quit because I was like, this is lame. And she had like a better relative ear than I did, or she had like perfect pitch, and that she was just like picking, she was better than me, at least like back in those days. And like more into it, I guess. But I got good enough to the point where I could just make up like little toying around, like making up little melodies on the piano. I always thought like, ooh, like that is like the most, that just felt like very special, it's the most satisfying thing, very satisfying, very cool when you've very just magical. Like honestly, it was like, whoa, like I have discovered something new on this. You're conjuring something from out of nothing. And it's the best. So I always wanted to write music, but well, you're doing actually putting in the work. Now I'm doing it. But so to wrap it up, you guys were really good. I was shit. Well, you guys gave me the motivation and inspiration I needed to put in the technical work and the discipline. Except for you, at least, it wasn't discipline. It was just you just genuinely enjoyed music, and I just wanted to impress my friends and fit in. Well,
Hey, okay. This is
Another.
one more thing I want to say before we get to the
Okay.
wrap up, whatever that is. So I also was equally just trying to impress people, and also I know, yeah. But in recent years, I have been thinking a lot more about this, and I think I was like a very like lonely child in some ways, and I didn't know always. I was always. I don't remember if you. I don't know if you remember what my personality was like, but I felt like I didn't have one in some ways, or I wasn't really able to like communicate that part of myself or whatever that was. So I think music was this just like really innate, like I innately connected with it and was able to like use that to like plug in, and like that would be my personality, or like when I could shine or really like communicate or just kind of be like appear as I like truly was or whatever. So I feel like in some ways, like I just kind of lacked a personality, and I tried to make up for it with music. And so that became kind of like, for better and for worse, that, that's kind of like where I excelled because I was trying to compensate for other stuff. So recently I've been trying to like kind of come to terms with that, and like not base like my self-worth so much on like what I just have been like pursuing for so long, because I don't know, because it won't save you basically. So you have to like, not, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you feel like some of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're still like kind of like trying to
yeah,
past
like
that.
Yeah, definitely. I would say so.
Yeah. Well, I think that's I mean, I feel like that what you're describing is something that like most people feel at some point in their lives,
with anything, I
like
think
quite often with everything.
Yeah, sure.
So, and at least like you actually, I mean, that's kind of just like humans living in a society.
Society,
we all want to like have our thing to
right
be good at, that gives us our sense of like worth and respect and place and all that shit. But all kinds of like, those exterior motivations, but what really matters is the internal
that's true.
That is very real and very present.
Totally.
And we can talk about like the events leading up that like this led up to us creating music on our own, that are maybe, wasn't all motivated by just internal drive or love of music, but most of it is, especially these days, like basically all of it is. So yeah, so maybe just real quick, or not so real quick, but to wrap up, so after high school, so what changed? How did we get here?
well I remember my girlfriend dumped me, and that was a turning point. That night was a turning point.
Was it really?
It was actually. Yeah.
Well, I mean,
we can talk off mic about that. Yeah, well, yeah, kind of in an indirect way. It was. But
dude, it's the classic, dude. Like you have like the high school sweethearts that split up when they go to college, like they're going to different places. Dude, the classic predicament.
It really is a classic. Yeah, I didn't think about it that way, but it truly is.
It's like so personal. Yeah.
I think and so that was definitely a turning point, because then sooner or later this specific band showed up. Like after high school is where like things get real, like my memory gets a little bit blurry. Like things start to blur. I start to think about like Manhattan versus Lawrence, because I went to school that year, to college. I just remember that it was like a summer after high school where it was just like the floodgates were opening, and like we were just really starting to like dive deep on like just trying to find all the weirdest shit we could possibly find. And I'm sure I feel like your memory is probably better in general than mine. Did you move into
Goldfish, bro? But I do remember that period. I might have a better memory than you do.
Yeah. Well, I remember you took a gap year after high school, right?
Yeah. Just straight chilling, bro.
Just straight chilling.
The thing is, I need some time to like be a human being existing like outside of like my parents, telling me what I can and cannot do. So I was just like, I can do whatever the fuck I want. I don't want to go to college right now, so I'm just gonna
totally. And I didn't want to either. I made that proposition to my parents, and they just flat out said no. So because I remember I was gonna live. What's that?
They were pretty understanding. But
I know. You. I was going to.
You were a potential.
I was going to move in with you guys. Yeah. It didn't work out, but it worked out. It definitely worked out. I'm so glad I didn't live at that house. No offense, but
you would have hated it, especially after Dustin left and Dilly came in. Like, Dilly is like fucking amazing, but just like the dynamic of like Dilly and Finn like inviting like all those people over and all the certain activities that were happening. I think would have not been like, I already like was like not pleased. But I know I remember it like super fondly, but I don't think you would have liked it.
Totally. No, it was going to that house was the most exciting time. It was just
the guest had like that was the best position to be like a guest like in that house. Not
so many great memories of being up till like 2 a.m. and then getting to leave the house. It was so great getting to sleep in my own bed.
Dude, and the house like across the street like just catching fire and it was scary.
And I wrote a song about it.
Yeah,
so was that good?
Osage, right? Yeah,
Osage. Yeah, there's a verse about it, I guess. But Garrett. That was Garrett's house. Garrett Ellis. I don't know if we should. Oh no, he's not dead.
Nah, just kidding.
We'll bleep that. We'll bleep his name out. So that was. I don't know where to begin. I feel like there were so many artists that we got into at that house, and that was like it's like reflective of like the time in our lives where we just were really like, we all had our own cars and we were all like, in the summertime, it was a new sense of independence, excitement. So my memory is kind of blurry about that time, but I just remember it was a time of like exploration and getting to know ourselves more deeply. And
we did more like hiking on trails, like
hiking on trails.
Lawrence, that was a big deal.
Oh my God. Yeah. The trail by the I think was it the Kansas River? I can't remember what river it was, but in Lawrence, I have the best memories of that. It was like, I don't know. It felt magical. It was like all viney and green and lush and great times with that for sure.
Yeah. Oh man, there's several of them over there that were just beautiful trails, beautiful moments. But back to the music and what we were listening to. Yeah, I remember. I mean, to be completely real, the real turning point was there was a certain fruit that I discovered that changed the way I appreciated music.
Oh, that's so interesting.
It was a fruit, blueberries.
Blueberries.
I would eat a whole bunch of. We would all eat a whole bunch of blueberries, and then all of a sudden our perceptions. We had the doors of perception were
enhanced a little bit.
So we started noticing like these things about music that we didn't notice earlier. And we kind of like this renewed sense of like excitement about music. I remember like and that like mindset, like listening to like Snow Mine again, like the first one, that was like one of the big bands and still like to this day, like I think they're a great band.
Great band,
because like the combination of like psychedelic with orchestral arrangements and just the kind of
lush
sound.
Totally. Julia Holter, that was another one. I think Julia Holter especially, she just kind of encapsulates that the atmosphere that she was like really capturing, and like the one of the when we started with the blueberries, like I think it started to realize like there was this like world that could open up behind the speakers. Like they would just kind of just like conjure this crazy, you could just like, it was like this understanding that music could create these like new dimensions of like sound where you could really feel like you were just being taken away. And I remember Horns Surrounding Me, that song by Julia Holter was like so good. Cause and I hear that in Kate Bush. Like I feel like she's a huge Kate Bush fan, because Kate Bush has done this thing in songs where it's a lot of like field recordings, or like, you can hear like footsteps running and like running into new environments, and how the production is just so like three-dimensional. And I think Julia Holter was doing that same thing. So that was just one of who else was there? I feel like there were so many.
Well, for me, I think there were some experimental like artists that like we were listening to before Cardiacs, but I really think Cardiacs was just like the tipping point or the Pandora's box for everything else. There were a few that like there was this electronic artist like the Hacks and Cloak that I was into. I was
great.
I was into
Tim Hecker.
Tim Hecker.
Tim Hecker was cool.
Yeah, I started getting into like more of the psychedelic Steven Wilson stuff, which I was already pretty familiar with, like from Opeth. But then started getting the point, like after the Blueberries, the Steven Wilson and Porcupine Tree became like just as good, if not better than not better, but just as good like as Opeth before. Because like I always thought like Opeth is like the GOAT, the number one or whatever. And then I definitely had like my appreciation for Porcupine Tree and like maybe more like traditional like psychedelic music kind of expanded after that. But really I think it was discovering Cardiacs that really was the turning points. And to sum it all up, I mean, it's just like you hear something that sounds, I mean, where there's the concept of genre just doesn't exist in the same way that it does in other music. The music is its own genre. And it's not like, oh, it's a combination of genres like what like Mr. Bungle kind of does, or some of those like other more quirky bands or more proggy bands that are like sophisticated and they're well studied in these different types of music. It's like, like your own style like is a genre in of itself. And just the amount of like imagination and like the openness to like incorporate like whatever into it, and just the sense of like anything is possible. There's no boundaries, no judgment, no like this, no clicks, like, and it was always like really cool like reading about them, like especially like during the 80s and 90s, before the internet. Everyone was really like just segregated into like cliques and music, like the punks, the goths, the proggies, etc. And like everyone hated each other, but like at these Cardiac shows you'd see like everyone would all be there. So I thought that was really, really cool. I mean, reading about Tim Smith too, just like how what people would say about him, just his attitude of just being very, very open and non-judgmental, was like very, very influential for me. And kind of like, well, shit, I realized after listening to Cardiacs and realizing kind of like going back to like, oh, my taste in music maybe isn't like what I thought it was. Like all my life, I really like this like kind of like sad, like minor, like I thought I had mysterious sounding like stuff like Opeth, but maybe like my taste in music like isn't even, that's not what it is. Like I don't even know what my taste in music is. Like it's this ongoing process of discovery and figuring out like what your taste in music is, or so.
And they forced it, like you said. It's like they're well. I kind of want you to take a step back, because I feel like do you have a memory of like how you discovered them, or when you discovered them? You were the one, you turned them on to me.
Definitely. I definitely have a memory of that. And it's interesting because I actually discovered them when I was 16. Before that, it was the same day I was like looking up through Opeth's Heritage album. That was the one where they really started getting into the prog stuff. How you pronounce that? I don't fucking know. But very, very, that song is very, very similar to, I feel like, the Proclamation by Gentle Giant. So I was kind of, I've been through Mr. Bungle. I was just one of those days where like I was on YouTube just like discovering new music. And I remember I discovered Gentle Giant and Cardiacs on the same day and thinking to myself, holy shit, like I've just discovered like these two bands that like seem like very like, they're very stimulating to me, very interesting musically. And they do all across like different genres and varieties of music, very, very interesting stuff. And I remember actually Gentle Giant was like a little bit more accessible to me because each of their songs sounded like, and this is not my perception these days, but then Gentle Giant, like individually, like their songs sounded a little bit more distinct, whereas Cardiac seemed, it was kind of like blending all in together. My ears weren't trained well enough to like kind of pick out the pieces, like especially something like On Land and In the Sea, where it just really stylistically, it's a kind of like the songs are kind of all kind of in the same like vein, but like within each song, they're all like very different what's happening. But
totally.
But yeah, so Gentle Giant was like a little bit more accessible. But I remember like kind of like filed it away in my head, and I remember thinking like, okay, like I like Opeth and like Porcupine Tree, and like those are my favorite bands. But like at some point, like I need to check out like Gentle Giant and Cardiacs a little bit more, because like I would say like those are like my third or fourth favorite bands.
Yeah.
So I think post Blueberries, I was like going back and like listening to like some of this like this music that I had been into before, and like kind of like listening to it again with like a new perception. And I remember going back, there was this thread on this forum called Progressive Ears. I don't know if you've seen it. And
yeah, for sure.
Like Cardiacs, where do I start? It's really long. Like now it's been ongoing for like over a decade. And like I noticed, like it really kind of like struck me that like everyone was like really just saying like, hey, like these guys like
they're different. Yeah,
this is the best band ever. Like once you like listen to them, like everything is different, and like it changes everything.
Which people say about a lot of bands, and you hear that. And it's a very rare occurrence for that to actually, that doesn't happen a lot.
Right. And I remember like just even like reading those comments, like sort of like the way that it was articulated and that everyone was kind of in agreement. It made me think like, like maybe there's something like more here than like what I thought. And I remember too, like just, you look at those photos of, especially back in that classical era, like with the clown makeup and the suits and everything. And there's just like this weird vibe. And it's like, I remember like even when I was like 16, I listened to like Tarred Feather. I liked it, but I remember thinking like it wasn't something that I would like go back. I was like, oh, I gotta listen to this again. This is like so good. But I remember just, wow, like that is something. This is like very different. This is coming from a very, very different place. And there were other, like Mr. Bungle was one. There's this other band called Dog Fashion Disco that was also really into the kind of like more of a Bungle sound, where I think they had kind of that whole like circusy, like clowny like type of vibe. But I remember, so when I like heard Cardiacs after Bungle and Dog Fashion Disco, and I remember like thinking, oh, like this is like the source of that. Like this is where like it just felt like very authentic, very real. Like that's where it all began, and just like distinct, weird, foreign vibe. So it was just like, so I went back to it like, like this, I'm like looking at like these like photos of like them, like the cover of like On Land and in the Sea, and you just some of the other photos like from the era and the makeup, just the look that they're giving. Like, this is something different. So I'm going back and I'm checking out. I think it maybe I might have been like Illuminate House, the first album I went back and checked out. And I was just like, whoa, like I remember thinking to myself, like I was saying, like this is better than anything that I've ever heard, but not because it meets like my expectations of like what I would want music to sound like. It's like showing me something new, and that this guy has such like a mind and imagination, or it's this musical skill to like articulate like this, what sounds like very much like new music to me, that it's just totally like trumping or overriding my predispositions for what I want music to sound like.
It's
and just being at the mercy of just, exactly.
Totally
while listening to like Sing to God, and like in the later years where like his sense of like harmony and modulation like really developed, and it got really into like, okay, I mean, so some like the classical stuff like that is, I think, like the most like the classical period of the band in the 80s. That is, it's very inaccessible and very out there. But I think, and on the surface, it does seem like the later stuff, like with Guns, Spratlys, etc., is more accessible. At least like that's how I kind of like heard it at first. But I think like after listening, for like several years, the uniqueness of his music actually just continued to develop as he evolved like as a composer, and his compositions just became more like individual, like unique and distinct, and like less like, because the classical period it does seem like, oh, like kind of like I can hear some like Genesis here, some just Giant here and there. Like it kind of like fits a little bit like with the more like proggy era. But like, I mean, once you hit like Sing to God, it's like all over. It's just totally like different dimension of music. So
so you set me down. Whenever I think of like hearing Cardiacs, I always think of big, like your tall speakers and like laying down on the ground, because it's like I don't know, we were so into the whole like turn like dim the lights or like set the mood. Like we had some like incense going, like it was a whole thing. Like it was all about the experience, you know. And yeah, closing your eyes and yeah.
Oh, it was great because at that time I really missed this because I had that huge room, you know, the red walls and everything. The whole attic was like my space.
It was all yours.
I had the big speaks, you know, which I miss so dearly.
Great speaks.
There was just like a tradition. It was like a ritual that we would all like listen to like this crazy music with the big speaks late at nights. And I remember I had been listening to Cardiacs for like 2 or 3 months regularly before showing you. And so like at that point, it was all kind of like just in my own head. Like I hadn't like shared like this experience with anyone. And for me, it was like, I was kind of just like laying this towel on the back. It's like this crazy things. Like I didn't know like if you were going to like it or not. Cause you know, we never really talked about like, you still like, don't really like Mr. Bungle and stuff. So I didn't really know, what your reaction would be, and I was kind of like nervous about it too, like because I mean you have like a good taste. I hope he doesn't think like this stuff is like just I don't know.
Yeah, well, they're like the ultimate band to be nervous to share people. Like it's like you have really got to like play your cards right because you could really just screw the whole thing if you don't choose the right song. And you because we were just talking about this like a few weeks ago or like a couple months ago or something, and you asked me like what was the first song that you had showed me, and it was Snakes Is Sleeping, right? Yes, which I
was a very conscious choice given like our taste.
Totally, and that was such a great choice. I didn't remember that at all, but I've like listened to it like multiple times since you like revealed that, and it makes so much sense, and it's totally like takes me back to that time. Especially like surprisingly, it's the last like 2 minutes where it's that like ambient, like just like the chord, like it plays that little like motif, and then there's and and there's like it's not like scissors, it's not like wireless, but there's some sort of like crackling and just like ambient sounds going on, and that is such like that was like my gateway into it. Was just like I always remember like they always have those songs where there's like these fade ins and there's the people yelling, there's some sort of scene going on, there's like these characters in this world that's being created, and there's, you know, like with like the factory percussion and like a little man, it was just like creating this whole like universe, and I was so intrigued by it because it felt like it created like more questions than answers. I'm like, what is going on back there? Who are these people? And just just theatrical, like dramatic, like you want to know more, but I feel like there's always more to discover than you can discover, if that makes sense. Like you can't quite get to the peak of like, or like over the peak to like understand really what's happening, because I don't know, it's just mysterious. To me it really felt like before Cardiacs and after Cardiacs, it was like a rewiring of my brain, and it felt like they were like winking at me, so to speak. Like they were like, oh yeah, you know what's going on. Like they like even with the early days where they have the makeup, like there's just this sense that like they were letting you in on some sort of secret, like this like the universe is like winking at you. And even going to like the internet, like the archive, like their website with all the like the writings and stuff, that was even more so. Like to this day, I'm too dumb to even understand what that stuff was, but all I know is it gave me this crazy feeling of like these people I really thought Tim Smith was like an alien or something for a while. I was like, what is going on? Who are these people? Like they're complete geniuses, like they are not of this planet. I could go on, but yeah, that was that was a total rediscovery, and it definitely made me think different, and it evokes like just this feeling that like no other band can really capture to this day, and I love them, and they are amazing.
They truly were the greatest. one of a kind. Shit, man. I mean, I could say so much.
I don't know how we right. Yeah.
But Yes, I love that phrase. They create more questions than
More
answers.
question.
Because
Totally.
there's this, because especially before that, I think maybe like afterwards and maybe listening to like a few more like different experimental music and different bands, there is like a little bit more context where their music makes sense. And but especially
Sure.
at that moment in time, up to like, we've like had this whole conversation of like describing all these bands and all like everything that has influenced us up, growing up, on our journeys, everything that has like come into the picture and that that we have heard in our lives. It was just completely different. Like your frame of reference for something like Sing to God is just non-existent. Even if you like already, in my opinion, like even if you were like already listening to like some proggy stuff or experimental stuff, like we were, there's stuff that Tim does that no other artist knows how to do or still does. And it's just very much like exactly like you said, like like looking at you directly, winking. Lots of like, especially like Tim, like in photos and videos, and just like staring like directly into camera with that smile on his face, those wide eyes, and it's just like you get the sense of I always got the sense of like a man that has just sort of just felt like he had like surpassed like normal expectations of like what is possible, and had just kind of like hacked his own his own mind or whatever in a way that would like allow him to be receptive to like creative possibilities and making creative connections in ways that like I just didn't know were possible. And still to this day, I think like when you listen to something like I think like Belly Eye is a good example, where you have like it starts like with one riff that's kind of like rooted in like Motown music, and it's like kind of familiar. So it's like, okay, like I know where that's coming from. Like the production is like crazy already or whatever, but like it already sounds like kind of like really weird. But like okay, like but then like it goes into this other section, and it's like very like party upbeat. So it's like okay, but then like after that, there are these certain like sections of like his music, especially like in the later years, where it's just like there really isn't like much of a frame of reference for like anything that like already exists. That's like it's just his own like sense of melody and harmony, and like his own preference for like what sort of like melodies sound beautiful. And just the fact that they were doing so like in that one song, there's like multiple key changes, multiple tempo changes, time signatures change, of course, and then but it sounded like so cohesive, and like it's meant to like all be together. And that was like the most profound, or one of the most profound things about it, is that like you realize like all these things that seem like separate, like they don't belong to each other, like actually can and do like fit together, like if you just somehow how does he do it, like we always are trying to do it, like acts as like the correct combination of notes and the connections that like get you there. So I mean, holy shit! I mean, just like in the surrealism too, like the visual aspect of it, just the bravery, and I mean, especially even like the classic stuff, like it was already very different in that like the stuff that like out of like existing music that they were already referencing, it's not like cool shit or very. It's like this combination of like hymns, choir music, like classical music, like old like 18th century like folk stuff, or like
poems,
stuff you like like not Broadway, but like show music. Just very it feels like very universal. I mean, it's very like if you're really zooming out, it's like definitely very like Anglo and very English, but at the same time, like just the amount of like a melody that like was that like he would incorporate, it just felt like a very like universal, like very different than like what even like other like prog bands, like weird bands were doing back in like those days, and he just really made it his own. So anyway, like after seeing someone like such a big imagination and with such like this like drive and authenticity and just fearlessness, and how just it was just so, his vision was just so singularly unique. My conception of like what art was and what it meant to be an artist, like all these stereotypical like phrases you hear about like an artist like that, I think are true. I didn't really understand until like I had to have like someone like him just be like such like the epitome and like paragon or whatever, like what an artist, what it is to like create art, and like that's individual, that's unique, that's new, that's authentic, that it just really hammered home for me, like the idea in my head, like what it means to like be an artist. And so after that point, it was just like, okay, like I can listen to like this stuff. I am now interested in listening to everything, like genuinely interested. Totally. I don't want to just listen to like prog. I don't want to just listen to metal. Like I want to hear like the music that makes me feel crazy from every genre.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, well, that's it. I feel the same way. It totally just like opened up the possibilities. Like I was like craving everything, but at the same time, I feel like nothing really quite reached that peak that like the Cardiacs could, like, I was always searching for more of what Cardiacs was doing in other bands, which was complete freedom. And yeah, he was a genius, but I think what was so crazy about it is like the music and the songs he wrote, they just felt so effortless, and like they were always meant to exist. Like they were just, I don't know, in some ways it almost feels like childlike, and just the I don't know, it felt like positive and like triumphant and like so just free. So God, I don't know. It just feels like just like a complete celebration of life and just like positivity and like impulse, like with, you know, doing without thinking. So it's like, it wasn't at all like any other prog bands, which were they felt so like technical, but they kind of felt like cold and sterile. Like it just felt so like full of like emotion and expression and like anger and joy, just like all encompassing all these different emotions, and
authentic too.
So authentic.
His own like emotional interpretation of all these emotions.
Totally. And so unafraid of like judgment too by like whatever like mainstream music was into at the time. Like it was just so daring too. And the theatrics and the surrealism of it, like totally totally blew my mind. God, I don't know, we could go on, but I feel like we should.
We could go on, and we will go on you know, in another episode, but there was something that you said, and now I've lost it because my mind really is kind of foggy this morning.
Well, it's 3 p.m, so I don't blame you.
At this point. No, okay, holy shit. No, you were saying I let you keep talking because I didn't want to interrupt, but now I lost the thought. It was a really good one, because you were talking before you were mentioning yes, I got it. So like nowadays, like listening to it, it feels like Cardiacs is like, I feel like it's like my like Dr. Seuss, or it's like my home base. Like it feels just like, it feels like I like always, it's like always just been like a part of me or whatever. And like, in fact, I mean, there's also the part of it where it's definitely like deliberately the themes are very like childlike and dreamy, but and like even discovering them when I was first discovering them, it felt like there was definitely this sense of like nostalgia, which I think is, you know, an interesting phenomenon, the nostalgia with music. And it's not just with Cardiacs, like all like, I think the best melodies, especially of like songs, like something like the chorus of Big Ship, where it's like something that's like so perfect. It's like,
feels like a return to something.
Always been with me. This is sort of like familiarity, you know.
Totally, yeah.
Very interesting. But even like, so like nowadays, it really is just like this sort of just this home base musically. It just feels like just the beginning of every, like, you know, just I don't know, it's like fucking like Dr. Seuss, like so many different colors, like so many different like I mean everything that you said. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I can always return to it, and totally. It feels like Big Ship is an example. I mean, we should have more episodes where we talk about like moments like that. But it's like it captures this like innate, like this, like some of his melodies were just like, oh, it's like, it feels like it's always existed, and it's like
there's his whispering verses, that riff.
Oh, it's absolutely, like, dude. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and this is what that was another thing I was gonna say. I think like I was mentioning like Belly Eye and like all these like things that like fit together, and it sounds like they were meant to fit together like from the very beginning of like time or whatever.
Totally.
And it sounds like, you know how like if you play like all the notes of like the pentatonic scale, whatever, and you play them together, it's like, this all like fits together. It's some like this part of the universe that like just exists outside of time, like, on its own, like, and it's like all like these like relationship between like these specific frequencies, like the sound that they're creating, it just like exists like independently, like it's like a universal truth. Like that's kind of like, and that's like I think personally, like for me musically, what I love, not everyone's like this, but for me, like what I love about music the most, or the musical element that always like drags like or grabs my attention, is melody first and foremost. And when I hear like a really good melody that like fits, I always think it's like really interesting, like when it's like it's perfect from the beginning to end, right? If you would change just like one of those notes, and then like the whole melody like wouldn't be the individual thing that it is, this cohesive thing. And for me, it was just really interesting that you could have something that felt so cohesive and singular, but at the same time is so expansive. So I think in a really profound way, that was like maybe what was so profound about it, because it's like, okay, what else exists like out there that doesn't seem like it would belong together, but like does belong together. And so that's what you get like all excited about, that like let's discover that stuff, you know.
And discover it by like creating it too. And
that's what I meant.
Totally. And it's such an intuitive thing where you know what it is, or you know what it isn't, so you have to keep on working at it until it becomes what it is and what it's always like meant to be. Like this, I love the idea of like a melody being this like individual like character, this something like it's a string of like individual notes that creates this whole thing. And you're as an artist, like your intuition is for it to be like exactly what it's supposed to be. It's like this thing you hear in your head, but you have to like manifest it.
So Cardiacs and the Blueberries changed everything for us.
Sure.
I think going forward after that, I was not exploring genres. I was more of exploring like what is supposed to be like really good or really experimental, really different, what's really unique across like all music. And then I think like the next few years after that, I just remember you and I in particular just being really excited about and constantly sharing just different forms of experimental and avant-garde music with each other, and just not even, I wouldn't say like trying to like outdo each other with like there really wasn't anything like that, but it just did kind of feel like because you were living in Lawrence, you were far away from us, like relatively like an hour or so away, so I didn't get to see you all the time. So like every time like you would come hang out, it would always be like an event where like I would get to show you and you get to show me like what we had discovered like in that time in between. So it was always kind of like, you know, I always felt like I had like at least like one artist to show you the next time I saw you. Going back and forth with that sort of thing.
Yeah, it wasn't competitive. It was just like
no.
We both knew like, okay, we know that like there's this new like we have a radical new idea of like what music could be or like what we want out of music. And so like let's like we're just like constantly like reaching for how far into the depths of whatever it was we were looking for. It wasn't even all like experimental or like avant-garde, but it was just like
but we became more open to other genres that we weren't open to before, and like listening to that sort of thing. That's a great point and caveat to make. I said like focusing on experimental stuff, but I think just different genres within like just even like rock and pop music of the last 50 years that we had kind of like neglected, or wasn't like this sort of shit that we were into in high school, became like fair game for us to devour musically and like talk about and be excited about. So and
then I think around that time, when with like Wyatt and like Ouija, we called it Ouija, but I hear Ouija all the time now. We didn't really have, we recorded demos and stuff, but it like once we graduated high school and I went to college, like I got FL Studio and got into like I finally had my own little production like digital workstation or whatever, and I traded out like electric for acoustic guitar. I finally had access to like synths and stuff, and like I was into like other bands like Air, like that was a huge that was like another monumental band for me. Part of the reason was because it was like only two guys, and they were capable of like making these just like amazing, like it was pop music, but it was so like colorful and like lush, and it felt like a lot of the music I got into in terms of like producing my own music was stuff that I felt like was within reach. Like I felt like I could make this on my own. And so, yeah, so I got really into producing music and doing beats, and I was very much into acoustic guitar. I don't know, like the mix of like acoustic and electronic music, psychedelic, some like just anything where like you'd put the headphones on and you could just all sorts of like little details and like little, just like putting tons of work into making sure it was like some sort of like atmosphere or some sort of like really bunch of little like Easter eggs, like that kind of thing. I love making those things where you would just like a really dedicated like listener could like listen in and like, I don't know, a lot of it was like, I was imagining like listeners to be like you who were really like so committed to like hearing all like the little sonic stuff going on. So I think a lot of my music that I make today is still trying to do that, like just trying to be like, hey, are you,
Thank
check
God.
this out, there's what's going. Yeah. I feel like you and I probably make music for each other, like we want to make music that we want to hear for ourselves, but also that our friends want to hear, which is, I'm so glad that all of our friends make music like that, because I sometimes it's hard to like find music that you like, but I always enjoy like hearing my friends play music. Yeah,
likewise, man. And I think going back a little bit back to Cardiacs again, and how you kind of like have that feeling of, oh man, nothing else sort of scratches that itch, or it does that same thing to you as like his compositions do. I think I can, like, speaking for both of us, aside like from like listening to like trying to find like more like Cardiac songs, like B-sides or whatever, or live versions, or just waiting 20 years for a new album, the LSD album. It's like or more,
please.
Yeah, it's the answer is like to deal with that has always been just to do that yourself.
Make it yourself.
Make your own, scratch that itch yourself, and like do your own like musical like exploration where you're discovering new sounds, melodies, and just parts of the universe that already exists that you're conjuring with your music. So that has, especially these days, now that I've kind of like gone through their whole discography thousands of times, like sucked all the music dry, and like I still like really appreciate it, but I do like feel like, man, and more I think it also helps that like I have like so many, like a lot of like different projects too nowadays, like what like just scratch that itch to me, and like it gets me excited and gives me that same feeling, is just the stuff that I am making. And I think the same goes for you. And so yeah, it sounds like how weird to it. I don't want to like say that, oh, like, there's like Cardiacs, then there's like our own music, then there's like everything else below it.
No.
But I mean, that like kind of like, as far as like what I want to like be spending my free time like engaging with, that's kind of like how it feels. But no, definitely there's just no like one particular band that scratches that itch for every single or almost every single song, right? And you can do that same thing yourself, because it's up to you how every single song sounds of yours. So
that's totally how it is for me. Like I just make exactly the kind of music that I want to make, or that I want to hear, and because no one else is going to scratch that itch for me. So like I was saying before, it's really hard for me to like listen to music sometimes, because it's like I know how good, like how good it can make me feel, I guess. And it's like sometimes you just can't, you can't quite go back to like when like when the doors are kind of open and you kind of know like how like the heights that music can reach, like you kind of just want to be like, I don't know, bypass it all, like kind of do it yourself, which neither of us are like even ever fucking close to Cardiacs. But it's not so much like, I think our music is very different from theirs, but it's just more so just that like just wanting to reach the same mentality. Exactly.
Mindset. We're doing our best
for sure
to incorporate that. It really is a funny thing. It's kind of like, like with like heroin, like you do you do heroin,
it's a drug,
and then you go and then you take just like a less potent downer, and you're like, hey, man, this just doesn't do it the same like way you used to. It really is like kind of like it's like it's really really funny like once you know like how good this is the way you said like how good it can get, like how no seriously, because like I never in my life has there ever been ever again like the experience of like listening to like music that is so good that I am scared of it. I mean,
eat it up, worms hero, my friend.
Like sing to God, like that first, like the first disc, like Up Till Dirty Boy, especially like that round songs. I remember like listening to that for the first time and just being like,
what the hell?
I'm
this is spooky.
Yeah, like I'm like starting to like doubt like my whole like reality like right now, like is like how I just like I didn't know that music like it was possible that music could have like this effect on
or
that this type of music could exist. Like it changed the way that like I understood like what music could be like just as an art form, like as a whole, like what music is and like what it is capable of. And then you do see like and the best music like from all artists, and there are other like geniuses out there, like you do like get that that feeling itself, like there are like perfect pieces of music out there, of course, that like aren't cardiacs and that like do give you that transcendent feeling. But then like you get like spoiled like once you get that, you just get like fed that like
hit.
Crammed like and shoved in your mouth like constantly, like every single song one after another, and it's like all so different and just alien sounding and new sounding and weird. So yeah, scratching that itch, that's what we play.
And kind of, and also just like it's like so sad like how his story ended, but I don't know, like his whole essence was so just like I don't know the guy obviously, but you could just see like the energy just like radiating off of him, just like this like pure, just I don't know, like that it makes me feel like I don't know, I feel like such a strong connection to him as an artist, and it feels like you just want to like kind of pass the baton on of like he just cared so deeply, and you could see he was just like such a I don't know, like just a extraordinary person, but also such a down-to-earth person in another sense, and you just want to like carry on that whatever he was doing, like it's just so like to let something like that go would be such a waste. So yeah. But okay, but the other thing I wanted to say real quick was it's like nothing really reached like knowing how good it can be, and I feel like it set new standards for the kind of music we like, but at the same time it's not like we became more picky or like more snobby. It's like the complete opposite, like completely open, because we're like, oh my god, like there's just so much creative possibility out there, and not only finding it but making it too.
Yeah, it's like there was two things going on, like at the one, like on one side it's like, all right, nothing is like scratching the same itch. Like I find myself like getting like a little bit bored sometimes. Sometimes like it's a little bit of a chore to like make it through an album of even artists that like I really like or consider to be like one of the greatest, especially like back then when I was first getting into them. Just like I remember being at like live shows and like fantasizing about like listening to cardiacs. It's like, but anyway, there was like that. So, but at the same time, you could like feel like you could like listen to everything and like have a genuine interest for everything, and like really enjoy listening to like all kinds of music. So I mean, and for me, like personally, like songwriting, I think, well, definitely for you too. For me, that was just like such a clear turning point. Before that, like I said, like my like musically, like melodically, it was always just like minor scale, and like I don't know, maybe there's differences between like harmonic minor or whatever, but it was that sort of thing. And then after listening to Cardiacs, I could incorporate more, not like consciously, but like happier sound stuff, like major Lydian stuff.
Lydian.
Very, very big one. And I don't think I really like started as a songwriter until afterwards. It was really it felt like he gave me permission to access like depths of like my own unconscious, or like find my own voice and like strip out or take away like all these like preconceptions I had of myself and what music could be, and allowed me to like get to the core of what my taste in music is, which is, I think, and that's the same thing with everyone. Like we all, it's like this infinite preference that can be expressed when you yourself create music.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well said.
Yeah. So shit. So nowadays, this is kind of like still where we're at in a way. I have my, personally, like, I doubt like if there's any band that like becomes like I'd start to like more than Cardiacs, it would mean that like I have like another like life-changing experience
Yeah.
coming up, and that I'm going to listen to music that's so good that it would have to like really like freak me out.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, but I don't think that would happen. But there's lots of other bands that I think sort of occupy kind of like this like second tier of like big like bands I consider like giants or like very influential, like genius artists that I think like a very do a very good job at expressing themselves in a way that's very unique to them, and just very imaginative too. And then aside from that sort of second tier, I kind of like pick music out and songs out I like from just about everywhere and kind of add that to playlists and stuff. And that's kind of what I've been doing, doing that, listening to music. That's kind of what I've been doing the past decade or so. So
yeah.
Well, you mentioned like stuff like Air and
Stereolab.
Stereolab.
Yeah, Stereolab was a big one for me too. Because they had a similar thing where it's like crazy, very like kind of sometimes alien.
They do the like alien melody things.
Totally, like really weird polyrhythms and like crazy, like the seventh chords, like the really weird like chord progressions. Lots of like you can just hear just like all these details. They like work together in these like just perfectly interlocking mechanisms. I can't really explain it, but so Stereolab, that was another big one for me. Oh God, I should have prepared. I feel like I need to put together like a playlist of like what that like.
No, you're fine. We'll have like another cast dedicated specifically to that. But I mean, I think it's like what I was telling you the other day when we were like messaging back and forth. Like, I feel like interesting enough, I think we both kind of like have that same sort of like structure where like maybe like Cardiacs is number one, especially when it comes to like inspiration and just the mystery of it all. Just kind of sort of a separate thing, like even
it's not
like pure music,
totally.
It's like of nature.
And
then below that there's like all like the greatest like bands that like have our influences. In some ways it sounds like you can like kind of like trace the influence a little bit even like more directly in like our music itself. Like Air, Opeth, Pink Floyd, Stereolab or whatever. And for me, maybe it's more like Gong or Make a Rising.
Make a Rising's big too.
So there's these bands like each of us, and there's like lots. I mean, I also think that like Air is like one of the greatest bands of like all time, etc. But it's cool. I think how like our influences are, there's so much overlap and there's so much similarity, like down to like who we think is like the very best of the best. But like it just so happened that like the bands that like are most influential to you and your sound and to me and our sound, like they're so distinct. So there are lots of other artists that I think like have a sort of special place for each of us in terms of like our own musical style. I'm trying to remember some. I think you wanted to mention some other ones.
Top 5: Cardiacs, AC/DC, Aerosmith,
Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones, hell no, not even top 10. ZZ Top. And
Godsmack, dude, go back.
So Godsmack's actually number 1.
Yeah.
Cardiac's number 2. Sorry, this is very serious. Our music today that we make is very different. It's cool. I think of it like a family, not a family tree, but like a weird, like you can like trace the genealogy of it, almost like a graph, like a flow chart, exactly, the genomes, the gnomes.
I mean that's why one of the reasons I really like working with Vince and Noah and other artists, because it allows me to explore different like musical areas, like my own sound, like even like I would never do like individually. And there's certain artists that influence me more for the stuff I make with like Noah, for instance, that like don't really come into play like with my own stuff. Like going like alluding to like what we were talking about like a while back, like when I was talking about like listening to like all the hits on Power Hits 975, that early 2000s pop, like that stuff I think is still like to this day is like extremely influential, or just like in my DNA when it comes to like maybe I'm making a hook for like a song that's more like pop or whatever, and I think back to like where some like of the stuff that like I was listening to that was like really powerful to me like during that period of time that I thought was like really like catchy and just amazing. No, Shakira, Britney Spears. No, like seriously, like the hook for like "Hips Don't Lie" by Shakira. It's just like perfect. And it's actually there's a song that like that is taken from before that, but like that's from like the 90s or earlier. But anyways, like that's that stuff is I still think is hugely influential on me. And even like lately, there's kind of a period like where I was more listening to exclusively like just not exclusively, but like more sophisticated music, or like critically acclaimed music, or that's or not pop, I guess. And I kind of like, because I had been doing so much stuff with like Noah the past few years, I kind of like realized that like lots of my influences were coming from that period of time, and I just realized that like I should own that. And I'm kind of like being like going back and like listening to that stuff more and like figuring like, oh yeah, like I can say like I like the song, and like you know, whether it's like "Don't Funk With My Heart" by the Black Eyed Peas was like one of like, I'm serious, like, dude, do you remember that? Do you know that song that I'm talking about?
I don't.
Dude, we'll have to have like an episode.
Okay, we'll dedicate a whole hour to that one.
But yeah, no, it's really just really catchy melodies that have like, I think more melody to them. I think like nowadays, like music on the radio, it's more monotone, or it goes between like one or two notes, or it's
right.
I feel like back then there were more, I sound like a grandpa here.
Back in the day.
Yeah, it's I know like I have my perception is biased of it because or whatever, but I think it was music was better. I mean, like, it's on the radio, like the songs, the variations of like the different like styles between like I don't like a Black Eyed Peas song or like a song by I don't know, even just the Gorillaz or Britney Spears, or totally. That sort of thing. And it's all very accessible, very catchy. It's very
totally
for me.
Earworms.
It's all about the earworms. Yes, exactly.
It's all about the earworms.
And there were some good earworms, I think, during that period of time, and that still influences me. So that's like this other area that comes in. But yeah.
Yes, and I'm honestly super like jealous of that because I did not have that. I only had like rock radio because my parents, like that was just all I was surrounded with. So I kind of wish I would have had more of that like implanted within me early on, because it took me a lot longer to get. I still never like had that, like have that pop history, like the radio pop. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of wish I would have had a little bit more like less homogenous of an upbringing, I guess. But one other thing I thought of from you was you stole a melody from church.
Oh yeah, I mean that stuff just happens all the time, you know.
That shit rocks. No, those church hymns and like church music, they got some bangers in there. Like melodically, there's some great shit in there.
Yeah, I mean, especially like the 90s and 2000s and 80s, like worship music, like most music's kind of gone downhill ever since like 2009. But no, I mean, it just goes back to like the whole Cardiacs thing, and like because before that, I wouldn't have thought or wanted to like incorporate something like that. But just like, okay, just be honest like with yourself and like your influences and what you've heard growing up, and like what is like the most natural for you, like what your unconscious just naturally comes up with without like any interference. And you know, hearing that song is called "Our God is an Awesome God."
I know that
maybe
one.
Like it's a good one.
The first time I heard it is an awesome God.
Yeah, and it's like that would have been like a song that I had heard like maybe the first from ever since like I was like 5 years old or something like that. So it's definitely I think that's that just comes up, or it comes up when it needs to. So
yeah.
That's
great. That goes back to like Tim Smith. Like it just sounds so like impulsive, or just like he just has this within him, and he's so unafraid of like letting all of it out, you know, like just there's no shame about anything. It's all comes from a place of love, whether it sounds cool, like so I'm totally I love that you know, having no shame about what's in your blood, your musical blood.
I think, well, nowadays with your music more than ever, especially, I think one part of it is just you're evolving as an artist and growing, and you're getting more tools and different techniques and styles. Oh, I mean, you always were a tool, but
that's true. You just gotta practice, dude.
It's true, you do have to practice. I did have to practice, but it's also, I feel like everything that you've made more and more recently, it sounds more and more like Cardiac's inspired, or like more like kind of like reaching like those same sorts of heights, peaks, and levels.
That's what I want. I just want to get up there.
Don't you feel like you've gotten good, you've gotten better at like modulation, and like really understanding like chord modulation and structure and stuff like that, whereas
I still don't understand it though, like
maybe understand it like not at an intellectual level where you're able to like describe it, articulate it, but like you can sit down and like imitate, or like do in your own way, like do certain things where you're modulating between keys, or there's unexpected chord change, or that thing in Sun where it sounds like the chords are changing, but it keeps on just reaching new heights. Very Smithian, I'd say.
It's Smithian. Good old Smithy. I think I don't understand it. I just know, I don't know. It's like I know it when I hear it, if that makes sense. Like I'll just hear a part. This isn't just like Cardiac's, and we're not just Cardiac's rip offs, by the way. We're not trying to like.
If stuff, it sounds totally different, right?
But I think like I've never had any sort of like musical theory background besides like playing orchestra or whatever. But I would just hear something in a song, and like, oh, that gives me that feeling that I'm like constantly chasing, and so I just like try and just figure it out. And so I kind of like understand it at a like subconsciously, not consciously. I don't think I ever will. I don't think I have that. I'm like beyond that in terms of like my brain developing or whatever. But I mean, totally going for the weird chord changes, like the really like tingly feeling that they give you, like and the bombastic, just like reaching new heights, trying to feel like you're just kind of going out into the transcending. Yeah, totally. That's what I'm into now. Who knows what it'll be in like 5 years? I might not be into that at all. Maybe it'll be too show offy, which I'm not trying to go for. But
no, not at all. I think, and we all go through different moments where we're more influenced by one thing over another. We're doing incorporating like one sort of musical element into our music more than others, or more excited about one thing versus another. But I think that is a great sort of thing to incorporate. But at the end of the day, like we were saying, particularly with Cardiac's, it's mostly like the attitude, like the honesty, the mindset, which if you get that right, then hopefully everything preceding, like following that, is, you know, really great stuff. Usually I think that is the case. Just goes back to like just like lots of this is just like kindergarten level stuff, just like be true to yourself,
totally
authentic,
totally.
But it's stuff like you grew up, you know, you always hear it, but it's just like so true and so difficult, and like, you know, it gets so even hard and harder in some ways the older you get. But well, shit, I feel like we've kind of, have we come to a stopping point? Have we wrapped up?
I think so. I think that was a good little button on top of things. Little ribbon. Be true to yourself. It's so true.